Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Saurabh Pol. Welcome to Polki Bowl. Today I'm going to talk about a weird topic, but I think it's quite pertinent to urban India and urban Indians. Um, why are house parties becoming more and more popular, right? And why are nightclubs and clubs in general not really working out? And this is not just an Indian phenomena, by the way, it's also a global phenomena. You will see Gen Z does not consume alcohol as much as other generations, at least in the West, right? It's the opposite in India, where Gen Z does consume a lot of alcohol. But when you look at UK, when you look at the US and parts of Western Europe, right? Even Northern Europe, they are not really into cigarettes. They are definitely, they're definitely not into alcohol as much as their, previous generations were. And what has happened is they are abandoning night outs in a way. They're abandoning nightclubs in a lot of ways. While they do go for night outs, they are in houses, each other's houses, right? So they are into house parties too, right? And clubbing has really gone down. Like there are some reports which say that in the UK, 75% of the pubs that were opened since 2005 have closed down. One credible number I would say is that there's been a 30 to 40% decline in the number of nightclubs in UK since 2020. Now, of course, most of them were due to the pandemic, but even after the pandemic, when there was like a lot of revenge fun that was had by people, even then not many of them could continue, because when consumer behavior shifts, there is rarely anything that you can do, right? Because if you're not in an agile business, it's very tough to deal with changing consumer preferences, right? And it's also a generational thing in a lot of ways. And you won't believe, but technology also plays a lot of roles, right? Plays a huge role in this entire matter. For example, many people, women especially, they were like, we feel unsafe in clubs. You never know who will come and spike our drinks. So we have to be very careful about it. This is from the West, right? And also quite a few women I've spoken to in my own life. So they're like, club bab mein pata nahi. Although, like it is a much more popular problem, not a popular, like a much more well-known problem in the West, that, you have to be careful about your drinks. Don't leave your drink unattended. Even, people, if they have drinks like this, sometimes they get spiked. So it's a safety issue for women. And they're like, I want to be in a controlled environment. I want to be in an environment where there are not many strangers around me. So a house party makes a lot more sense, right? Because there are only people who I know, or at least they're acquaintances, if nothing else, right? There is someone who can refer me. They aren't complete strangers in the club. So that is one reason, safety for women. I would say that is the case even in India. But it's more about, people behaving in an indecent manner. Because frankly, I think clubbing culture is not that old in our country. Let's be very frank, right? Like even until 10, 15 years ago, clubbing was like, oh my God, only rich people do it, right? Or, people with bad characters do it, or loose men and loose women do it. So that was the way it was portrayed 15 years ago when I started college, right? Or when I was when I started actually, yeah, I'm getting old. But anyway, the point is that over the years that, perception has shifted. At least in India, nightclubs became quite popular. Like if you just had to have a good time, a lounge or a nightclub, alcohol consumption keeps on increasing every year in India, by the way. I think India is the largest consumer of whiskey in the whole world, in terms of pure volume. So we do love our drink in India, right? And the way we drink is also very different. But what has happened is our clubs, even in Bangalore, right? Like there is this recent report in the Times of India that a good like 5 to 10% of the clubs in Bangalore are shutting down, right? Ever since like they came up in during the pandemic era, many of them closed down. Even after that, in recent weeks, recent months, like 10 to 20 of them have closed down. There are 20, 30 more that are going to close down in Bangalore, right? And Bangalore or Bengaluru is known for having some of the best places to party in the country, right? In fact, I think Asia's largest brewery is now in Bangalore. Like the amount of breweries, the amount of nightclubs that you have, there's a young crowd that is the target clientele for it, right? And I remember this very funny story. A friend of mine who, ex-colleague, she still lives in Bangalore. She was like, we were at this, lounge, and there was a hookah lounge over there. There was a hookah over there, and people had literally brought the kids over there. So they're young couples. They're like in their mid 30s. They can't afford, a nanny, or at least the nanny is like, I'm not there after 8 p.m. That's usually the case. So they're like, हम बच्चों को ही लेके आ जाएंगे क्लब वब में. बच्चों को लेके आ रहे हैं यार लोग. So young Indians need, especially affluent Indians need a place to hang out and chill out, because we work the longest hours, one of the longest hours, some of the longest hours in the entire world, right? Like, it's statistically there. Indians work really, really long hours. Now, you can say productive नहीं है, different story. But हम काम बहुत करते हैं, हमसे कराया जाता है. It is not going to change for another 10-15 years, let's be frank. So we are like, okay, let's let loose and let's, go out and party. The challenge is, it's getting more and more expensive to be in a nightclub, okay, or to visit a nightclub. भाई एक तो रोना धोना होता है कि लड़का लोग अलाउड नहीं, it's like stag entry, is not allowed. You only need couples and all, and I can understand why, right? You get like like, if there are 70-80% of just men at a club, 10-20% of the women, no one's winning out there, right? Like, plus the bouncers are always worried कि क्या होने वाला है, क्या नहीं होने वाला. So they try to make it as many women as possible, because then, I mean, for whatever it's worth, it's a much safer environment. And the thing is, most men are like, भाई हमसे तो होगा नहीं, हम जाके बैठ जाएंगे कहीं किनारा bar or this bar or that bar, or we'll sit at some lounge where there are no such rules. So clubbing and nightclubs are something which require, already there is an entrance issue, right? Because you want to ensure it's a safe environment for everyone. So at the very beginning, it is one of the very few places that can, literally say, we don't want your business, bye. So even if the market is this much, they're already catering to a very small size of the market, right? And now what has happened is, women in general also feel like, यार ये nightclub में इतना होने के बाद भी, I don't know if I'm really feeling safe or comfortable, right? But then a house party करते हैं. Now these things would have been possible even 10 years ago, but they are even more possible today, purely because people partied. Yeah, people partied a lot since 2020, and they have like, we have had our fill. यार जो पहले 200-250 रुपए का ड्रिंक आता था, आज 600-700 पे आता है. Prices have tripled, right? Like, someone who's been drinking since 2010 and all, I'll tell you, like, I'm not saying हमारे ज़माने में 4 रुपए का टेनिस बैट आता था, like table tennis bat. Not, I'm not going there, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is that, genuinely, it's not even inflation adjusted, right? Like, it's beyond inflation. Like, everything has become very expensive. The experience of going out and drinking costs a lot, just like the experience of going out and watching a movie, which I just watched like a couple of hours ago, right? So I will definitely say this. Going out to a nightclub is very expensive. You have to go out with a girl, at least because I'm a guy. You have to go out with a girl, or a bunch of girls, so whatever it is, you need to be a group. And once you get in there, then uske baad, ab jao, आवाज itna. Like, I personally feel like, I mean, young people are like, what is he complaining about आवाज? I'm like, bro, you turn 28, 29, you'll understand what I mean by आवाज, right? But, go and party, have your fill. But the challenge then becomes, हाँ 1 बज गया, चलो निकल लो. उधर से निकलते टाइम रिक्शा वाला बोलेगा, वैसे तो 100 रुपये होता है, आपसे 200-250 लेंगे, लेना है तो लो, नहीं तो निकल लो, मीटर नहीं लूंगा. द कैबीज, आई हैव लिटरली बीन किक्ड आउट ऑफ कैब्स बिकॉज दे लाइक, नवी मुंबई नहीं जा रहा मैं पवई से. मैंने, सर आपने एक्सेप्ट किया, मैं पैसे दे रहा हूँ, व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम? नवी मुंबई में मूड खराब होता है, इतना दूर मैं नहीं जा रहा. So I've faced that, right? So you're like, oh my God, this is another challenge. So safety also becomes a problem because you're out on the street at 1:30 a.m., right? Assuming the cops aren't there to, hopefully the cops are there, right? Like, nowadays things are better. The cops don't mess with you. 10, 12 years ago, like, cops would be like, क्या कर रहा है इतना रात को बाहर? Yeah, nowadays they are very acceptable. They're very accepting, sorry. Very polite in a lot of ways. At least they have been with me. As long as you don't mess with them, they won't mess with you. So because of these issues, you're like, भाई ये भांगड़ में पढ़ने का ही नहीं है, so issue करने का ही नहीं है. अपन है ना अपन दोस्त के घर पे जाते हैं, वहाँ करते हैं. Now what has happened is, people have gotten some money, and it's become more socially acceptable to actually have your own place. And when people have their own place, they love to host more often than not, right? And they're like, you know what, I feel safe in this environment. It's a decent environment. 1 BHK या 2 BHK अपन है ना वहाँ पे पार्टी कर लेंगे. सस्ता भी बहुत पड़ता है. Literally, if you go outside, like 5 people, आपका बिल 10,000 के नीचे नहीं आने वाला. Okay, 10,000 ज़्यादा बोल दिया, चलो, like at least like 6 to 7,000 rupees is the minimum bill for 5 people, right? You do the same thing at home, that's all inclusive, right? Alcohol, food, and all of that jazz. You do the same thing with 5 people at home, it will never go above 4,000, 5,000 bucks. Like, तुम कितना भी खर्चा कर लो. यार सीधा मतलब, I mean, I don't want to get into the cost of a khamba and all, but I'm just saying, right? Like, it's much more economical. People are like, यार घर पे बैठे आराम से बैठे, एंड किसी को ज़्यादा होगी वो सो जाएगा, या हमको लेट हो रहा है हम यहीं पे सो जाएंगे, कोई टेंशन नहीं है. उतना एडजस्टमेंट होता है, एंड पीपल फील सेफ व्हेन दे आर अराउंड ईच अदर. सो इन इंडिया दिस इज द केस, राइट? आई वुड से. कि पीपल आर लाइक बाहर मत जाना, घर पे ही सो जाओ, कोई टेंशन नहीं, अगले दिन सुबह उठ के निकल लेना. So many people have done that. I have done that, right? So this is one of the many reasons I would say clubs and nightclubs are not really working out. And I personally feel, um, if you go to one club, right, going to another one, why would you repeat the same place again and again? You would do that in a bar because bars have themes, but clubs also are like, हाँ गए नाच लिया थोड़ा बहुत हो गया आ गए. you know you won't do that after you're 22 23. Like एक बार आप 22 23 24 हो गया, आपका कॉलेज वॉलेज हो गया ना, you leave that. You leave that. आजकल लोगों के पास पैसा भी आ गया because the parents are like, yeah, I know you're going to enjoy and party, take it. हमारे टाइम पे तो वो भी नहीं था. So I will say that uh, there is going to be a rationalization in terms of nightclubs in India in general, in urban India especially. And it's long overdue, honestly, because house parties are actually pretty cool. And it's much more, there's much more freedom. अगले दिन सुबह मतलब वो साफ भी हो जाता है अपने आप in a lot of ways, right? So you don't even have to worry too much about it because even landlords have become a bit more liberal. They're like, हाँ यार ठीक है, chill है, कर रहे ना करने दो. Just as long as you don't damage anything, we are okay with it, right? Even neighbors are like, okay, as long as you keep it down, you can enjoy. So that is where house parties are becoming more and more of a viable option, a preferred option compared to these clubs and nightclubs that people go to, right? So anyway, this was Polka Bowl. I know it's a very niche topic, but I think I thought I'd speak more on it, right? Because I think it does matter. So stay safe out there, enjoy, have a nice time. Let me know what you think, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.